give people information. You know, the emotional swings here and there, you got to do some of that. But at the end of the day, if I'm telling you that blacks have lost income, black home ownership is down, blacks are not contracting with the city, if that's what you want, then I guess there's nothing I'm going to be able to explain to you to convince you otherwise. But if you think that makes a difference in people feeling a part of this situation, then I think you need to give me a listen and hopefully give me a vote in November.
Well, hello, everyone. You are with Urban Interests, and I am your host, Angela Matthews. We got great stories for you today. It's going to be, oh my goodness, it's going to be hot and blazing. First of all, I want to thank my guest host for stepping in for me on Monday. She did a wonderful and fabulous job. Miss Anita, thank you so very, very much. Listen, we're going to talk about Election Day exit polls. CDC eviction ban has been extended. Detroit automakers are saying, hey, you guys got to wear some masks. Then we're going to see a little bit about, you know, what happened at the polls in Detroit yesterday. It was crazy. UIN was on the scene. And then we're going to talk with Mr. Anthony Adams. I'm so excited about this segment. You stay tuned, stay connected. It's going to be crazy and live.
Hey, I'm Jay of Jay Bird's Rotisserie and Grill. Invite you guys to come out to a pleasant atmosphere. Anyone in the Detroit metro area, young professionals, we offer rotisserie chicken, grilled turkey chops, grilled salmon, grilled lamb chops, grilled steaks, and many other items. Jay Bird's is open Wednesday through Sunday, 3 to 8 for dinner. We have plenty of parking. We also rent out the space for private events like birthday parties. And here at Jay Bird's, we have plenty of space. We have a 100-seat seating capacity. If it's during regular business hours, we can make accommodations for your large parties. We have a nice, spacious, and clean restaurant and a quiet atmosphere, comfortable atmosphere. You will enjoy it. So Jay Bird's is located at 24480 West 10 Mile, just west of Telegraph. We're easy accessible. We have plenty of parking. So come in and try us out. Come in and try one of our tasty menu items and get you a specialty cocktail.
I bought a coupon. I said, let me go see what's happening at Jay Bird. So come on down, folks.
All right, everyone. I know that you're excited to hear some news about what happened with the election polls in Detroit. Well, UIN broadcast was on the scene. And so we're going to show you some of the interviews from the residents of the city of Detroit at the polls, what is looking like. This is totally exciting. So listen, take a look, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk with Mr. Anthony Adams because he will face off with the current mayor in November.
But still they live near their master, and they love their master more than the master loved himself. They would give their life to save their master's house quicker than the master would. The house Negro, if the master said, we got a good house here, the house Negro say, yeah, we got a good house here. Whenever the master said we, he said we.
We have Mr. Sherman Sharp here, just performed his civic duty. How you feel about voting today, Mr. Sharp?
Oh, outstanding, and happy to be able to vote and to vote at the same place where Senator Carl Levin used to vote until he made his transition last Thursday. And I'm sure he would have been here, but we're here to, do the thing that we need to do to support our community.
Absolutely. Well, okay, one of the main issues is Proposal P. What's your feeling on Proposal P? How did you vote?
Well, I voted for Proposal P, although, we've had, so many inklings that, this will cause the city to go into bankruptcy again by 2024. But overall, I opted to vote for Proposal P because I think that we need some change in our community.
That's a lot of people seem to agree with you that. As far as the mayor's race, can you share with us who you voted for mayor?
Well, I like Mayor Duggan. He's an old friend and everything, and so is Tom Barrow, and so is Anthony Adams, and so I voted for one of them.
Mary Waters here, who's a candidate for council, Detroit City Council at large. Why are you seeking this position, Ms. Waters?
Well, you know, that's always a magical question whenever you're running for office, but I can tell you that we are not delivering for Detroiters. That's my main reason for running.
Okay, when you say we, who is we?
We, the city council, is not delivering. That means that the city council is sitting at that table. They're acting as though they report to the mayor. We've got to have some checks and balances there.
We have Mr. Daniel Jones here, who just finished his civic duty of voting. Tell me, Mr. Jones, how do you feel about voting today?
I always feel good about voting.
Okay. You know, it wasn't that many issues or candidates on the ballot, primarily Proposal P. How did you vote for Proposal P, if you don't mind my asking?
I voted no.
And why did you vote no on it?
Because first of all, I don't know what the hell it is. Okay. And I couldn't vote yes for something I don't know. And I don't think that the people in Detroit, given all the problems we've had, would vote for something that would bring those problems back.
That's what the commercials definitely, that's the point they got across. But did you get any other information besides the commercials that you heard?
Yeah, I didn't really hear the commercials.
Okay. So where do you get your news from, if you don't mind my asking?
I get some of it from television.
Would you say there are problems in Detroit?
Can you name me a city where there are not problems?
Okay, so some people would say that the Proposal P, that they spent 2 years developing it, would solve some of the problems. So I guess my question is, if we have problems, if we don't change things, how would the problems be solved?
Well, first of all, you should make all the information aware or available to all the citizens. I shouldn't be standing here telling you I don't know what the hell this is.
That's true.
Okay?
I agree.
Okay, if nobody wants to tell me anything, I'm gonna vote no.
We have Miss Kimberly Brown here with us today. She just voted. Tell us, Miss Brown, what actually brought you out to vote today?
Well, I'm what they call a super voter. I voted every single election since I turned 18.
Okay.
Primaries, national elections, school board, whatever. I come out and vote.
Is it any particular candidate or issue that brought you out today?
Well, I think every candidate and every election is important. So all of the issues that are up to date, Proposal P, and who's going to be our at-large council person, as well as who's going to be the mayor of the city.
Okay. As far as the controversial Proposal P, how did you vote on that, if you don't mind sharing?
I voted no.
You voted no, and
Yes.
can you tell us why?
I believe that the proposal as it is now does not put forth any revenue on how they want to achieve all of the goals they have. So you can't have something that's going to cost millions of dollars, but you have no revenue source of getting those millions. And I don't think the city's in a position to just put forth more electors for the commission, things like that, when we really don't have, we're not strong enough yet just to waste money.
Mm-hmm. You know, people say that quite a bit of the money, Detroit taxpayers' money, go to corporations as gifts. Could some of those funds be diverted?
I don't think not at this time. No, I don't believe that they do go to corporations as gifts. I mean, if you consider, yeah, they do get tax breaks, but that's the way things are done in America. Capitalists want to make more money, and they want to have resources. And so if they can get those for the taxpayers, and the taxpayers can benefit because you can have a vibrant downtown, then you get more people to move into the city when there are activities, and so that increases the city's tax base. So I think sometimes it does balance itself.
You were aware that the Gilbert, no, I'm sorry, the Illich family got Detroit public school money.
I've heard that rumor, but
That's not a rumor.
well, I don't know. I didn't research it, but I know school money comes from our tax base and from the state. So how they got that money, I don't know, diverted to them.
Okay.
But GM gets money diverted to them too, right?
Yes,
So
yes, they do. Yes, they do. Well, let me ask you, as far as for the mayor's position, who did you support, if you don't mind my asking?
Mike Duggan.
Mike Duggan.
Yes.
And why?
I think he's done a very good job in the his last 2 terms, and I want us to continue on this momentum that we have. And I don't think any of the other candidates have the ability to do that. They can talk about it. Everybody can talk about the problems. I've been living in the city for many, many years. I lived in 1300 back in 1988, and they said the same thing about Coleman Young. He's focusing on downtown. He don't do anything about the neighborhood. So we've been having this argument for 40 years. So
Right.
I think Doug is doing a good job, and I want him to continue.
Okay, as far as gentrification, how do you feel about that?
Well, you know, gentrification has become a dirty word. But if gentrification means that you get new citizens moving into the community and supporting the tax base and increasing the tax base, then I'm for that. But I want all citizens to have the benefits of the good things that can go on in a large city.
And last question, where do you get your news and information from?
NPR and New York Times and the Detroit Free Press.
Okay, thanks you very much for Mr. Carl Hankins here, who just performed his civic duty of voting today. How'd you feel about voting today, Mr. Hankins?
Like you said, it's my civic duty. I enjoyed it. I'm a government and economics teacher, so
Okay.
I always told my students to vote, my sons vote.
Okay.
It's what we're supposed to do.
Any particular issue that brought you out today, or just voting, period?
Just voting.
Okay.
Just voting.
You know, we have certainly Proposition P was somewhat controversial. How did you vote on that issue, if you don't mind us asking?
Well, with the information that I had, I voted no on it. I really need more time to look at it, though. But I saw good things on either side of the argument. But I decided I would go no on it this time.
Okay. So the research you've done, you said no. Is there any particular issue or proposal or issue on the proposal P in particular that you decided to vote no for?
Well, no, I like most of the issues on the proposal. Where I'm a little shaky is how it will fund it. Should an administration decide to implement. I mean, if a current administration or future administrations don't implement it, then there's no problem. But
Right.
if they do, how do we pay for that stuff? Because while I enjoy the what it's saying it wants to do, I know that what it's saying it wants to do is going to be costly. So then I was like, well, I'd better err on the side of safety financially speaking.
So would you agree that Detroit has issues like any other major city?
Oh yeah, and then some.
So are you satisfied the way it's operating now?
If you're asking me if I like Mike Duggan, I do. I think he's doing a good job. Coming from where we came from, there are some things I'm not so enthusiastic about in terms of I don't see enough money going out into the neighborhoods for revitalization and blight removal and or things like that. But
So what is he doing good in your mind?
well, and see, this is the thing. I don't know exactly what all that he is particularly doing or what's already on cruise control with the city. But but I see a lot of new construction downtown. Our downtown is world class now.
So you spend a lot of time downtown?
Actually, I don't.
How do you feel about gentrification that's going on in the city?
Well, I wasn't going to say that, but that's one of the issues that I'm having a problem with, because I see what's happening is I believe we're being pushed out.
That's fairly obvious to most people. But you say Duggan is the person to solve that?
I'm not saying he's the person to solve it. I'm not saying he's the person who caused it. We're down there.
And I take it you voted for Mike Duggan.
I did.
Okay.
I did. And kudos to Mr. Adams. He's a good man.
Anthony Adams.
Yes, he's a good man. But I'm of the belief that you don't change until there's a reason to. And a lot of people may disagree with that, but if I saw something with Mike Duggan's administration that I didn't like, I would have no problem voting for somebody else, particularly Mr. Adams.
Hi, this is Tim Moore reporting for Detroit IPTV. We just conducted an exit poll from the east side and the west side of the city, and from the people that we talked to, Proposal P is slightly ahead at this time. Now, we talked to one person that voted absentee, and they said they got phone calls to tell them to vote no, and that's exactly what they did. One thing we did notice is that the people who didn't have very much information, especially about Proposal P, when they were unsure, they voted no, and they tended to vote for Duggan. So I don't know how those things are connected, but the people who didn't have a lot of information on Proposal P, they voted no, and they tended to support Mike Duggan. So we'll certainly be monitoring these polls, and we'll bring you more information as we talk to the winners of the campaigns and the issues that are important to you. Also, from the people that we talked to, the people who did the research, did their due diligence, tended to vote in favor of Proposal P. So they voted yes. So the people who did the research, they voted yes. The people who were uninformed, they tended to vote no, and they tended to support Mike Duggan. I don't know the connection, but there you have it.
Wow, what an interesting exit poll interviews. Thank you, Mr. Tim Moore, for conducting those interviews and bringing that information back. Listen, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk to Mr. Anthony Adams. He will face off with the current mayor come November. So we're going to have a conversation with him. So stay put. We will be right back.
911, what's your emergency? Oh my God, a child been shot! Signal 13 involving a child, the medicine route.
It is time to put the guns down. We've had enough. My future.
My future.
My future. Our futures are in your hands.
Adults, put the guns down.
Wanna play? Sleep.
Walk to school.
Visit my friends. I want to feel safe.
It's time.
Time to end gun violence.
Our lives depend on it.
Adults, this is not a request.
We demand that you protect us.
Put the guns down. We have hopes. Dreams.
Goals.
Don't let a split second of anger with someone else take away my entire lifetime.
Help us live. Help us thrive.
Help us build a better future.
All right, everyone, you took a listen to the exit poll interview, and now we're going to have a conversation with attorney Anthony Adams. He is a contender for the mayor's position, and he will face off with Mike Duggan in the November election. Welcome, Attorney Adams. How you doing?
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right.
I didn't get any sleep last night, but I'm up.
Thank you for being up with us, and congratulations for advancing to the November election. And listen, you know, they were saying it was a lackluster at the polls in the city of Detroit. And also, what do you think that the reason that people voted for you and not the others?
Well, I mean, the first thing is that it was a lackluster turnout at the polls. When you look at the fact that we have 459,000 registered voters in the city of Detroit, we can only muster up a little under 70,000 people to vote. that is embarrassing for a city this size, and we've got to do a much better job. You know, I find it ironic that organizations such as the NAACP, which has this Get Your Soul to the Poll initiative during presidential election, does not do the same thing with respect to a local election. We've got to change that. We've really got to get that number up, and we're going to be putting people and holding them responsible to make sure that occurs. That being said, you know, I'm happy that the voters selected me and allowed me the opportunity to advance. And really now we can crystallize the issue discussion about Detroit. Because I think part of what you had in a primary where you had 10 people vying for 2 seats, you don't really get the opportunity to get into much substantive discussion about issues of gentrification, of tax policy, of water affordability, all the things that we really need to discuss in the city because people are being impacted. And I also find it interesting that when you go to different neighborhoods, people see the world differently in Detroit. And we've got to be able to look through the city from the same lens of what's going on with people who are not fortunate versus people who are. What are the differences and how do we bring that together in order to create a new vision for the city?
Now, Attorney Adams, you just mentioned that, you know, out of a city of, you know, over 400,000, that only roughly about 70,000, I do believe you just mentioned that people came out to vote. And then of those votes that Duggan retained, I do believe about 50,000. So
yes.
How will you get people out to vote in the upcoming election in November for the mayor's position?
So now it's a one-on-one race. It's a much different ball game, and we can be much more pointed in our attack and our assessment and the presentation of our vision. Because one thing that I learned from the trail during the primary is that people kind of understand who he is as a person, but they really want to understand who you are as a person and what will you do differently. That's the number one question that I get asked a lot. They've already set the bar for their expectations for him. And the question is, excuse me, how will I do something different than what's already occurring? And that's a good question because it allows me to explain things that need to be done that aren't being done currently to really help the people in this city move forward. We've got a lot of shiny objects that people like to point to, like they talk about a great downtown and nobody's mad about that. They talk about the tax breaks the corporations have got, and nobody really seems to be concerned about that. But when you start looking at the overall impact of how it's not providing revenue and sources for people in the neighborhoods, and how the people who are being brought into the city, we're not bringing Detroiters along with them. And I think that becomes a major issue that people really need to understand. And I can certainly crystallize that discussion when it's a one-on-one debate versus having 5 people on a forum. It's just, you can't really communicate at that level. I've also got to do a better job of, I got to spend, as much as I'm in the streets, I got to spend more time in the streets because that's where the vote is. When you look at 70,000 versus 450,000 registered, we got to get that number up. We should be having 150,000 people, 160,000 people vote in the mayor's race. And we got to do a better job of getting that number up, talking with our churches, making sure that they're mobilizing people to get out to vote. This is the people die for the right to vote, and we aren't drawing a correlation between local politics and the right to vote. And we've got to be able to draw that correlation. And we also got to give people a reason to vote. Why should you come out to vote? How will it change your life?
Now you say giving people a reason to vote. Proposal P was defeated.
Yes.
Heard in the exit interviews that basically people had no knowledge and education about Proposal P. The citizens took a little over 2 years to come out to every meeting to voice their opinions, to present information with regards to what the citizens of Detroit need. It was called the People's Charter. How in the world did it get defeated?
Well, because you had a lot of suppression going on with respect to the whole issue. You first of all had a charter commission that met for 3 years where the administration never even participated in not one single meeting, which is sad because we're co-equal branches of government. Everyone should participate to develop a document. Then because of his control over the media, because there is no critical examination of anything that goes on in downtown Detroit, because we see that with respect to the make your date foundation scandal, which was simply swept under the rug. And so you had them announce immediately that it was going to take the city into bankruptcy. Well, we all understand that bankruptcy is a very sore spot for people in the city of Detroit. It's an emotional issue. And they use that emotional issue against the people who are proposing something that ultimately would benefit the people who live in the city. They have affordable water policy. They have affordable transportation policy. To have equitable tax policy. All these things can be worked on because part of what you do as a mayor is you make the budget work for what the priorities of the people are. If the people in the city say the priorities is to make sure we have affordable housing, home ownership, then you as mayor shape the budget, shape the document, not to bankrupt the city, because I think that was a lie, but to make it work within the confines of the city's fiscal condition. And I think they did a remarkable job of spending millions of dark money packed to confuse people and to paint a narrative initially that simply was not true upon closer examination of the facts. And then you had the delay with the court, whether or not it was going to be on the ballot. There was a lot of games being played with that with respect to confusing people. And I think they did a much better job because they have more money. They have more resources. If you look at the finance report of the people that have actually gotten paid through the mayor's campaign committee through these dark money packs, you'll see that people are being bought off at phenomenal levels for very little money to promote a message that really ultimately was not in the best interest of the people who live in the city.
Woo,
yeah, I'm getting ready now. I'm on fire now. I'm ready.
Okay.
This is what I mean when you got one guy that you have to deal with, and you can talk about all these things that are manipulating people in our community. And the community are just simply looking for information. You know, I listened to your interview with the guy, some of the people who spoke, and it was the absence of information. If I don't understand it, I'm gonna vote no. Yeah, I think he's doing a good job. I can't really tell you why he's doing a good job. I got a concern about gentrification, but I don't have a reason to change. I've got to give people the reason on why they need to change. That is my mission.
All right. Because we've got, you know, the crime rate is high, taxes rates are high, gentrification, and you would think that that would be a good enough reason for change.
Well, you would, but what happens is because there is no critical examination, other than your station, which critically examines issues, if you look at 247, Free Press News, they never delve deeply into anything that goes on in City Hall. And that's got to be by design because they when they want to investigate someone, believe me, they do a damn good job of investigating. And so when you don't critically examine the infrastructure failures of why the east side of Detroit flooded not once, not twice, but 3 times within a 30-day period, and no one says anything, and people are getting screwed by FEMA, and we're going to help you fill out your paperwork, but maybe you should be fixing the system as mayor, using your responsibility, and people tend to separate him from the issues. And I just say it's masterful. It's a masterful job, but we got to begin to peel the onion back and really show people who he is, but at the same token, provide a vision for how we can move the city forward, what our plans and platform are, so that we can present the best picture of what Detroit should be.
Now, this is a very simple question, but I'll ask it. Do Detroiters know that their mayor does not live in the city?
You know what? I would say they probably don't care. You know, I mean, that argument has been made so many times that people become numb to it. And I think that's what's happening. So when you look at, for example, the issue of crime, people are numb to it now. So the fact that 7 people get shot one weekend becomes another story. It's not something that we should be focused on. Or when you talk about infrastructure, flooding, people now become numb to it. People are being continuously being numb to issues that are impacting their lives. And that is the danger of where we're heading with this, is that people cannot afford to be numb, that we need people fully aware of what's going on around them and how we can assist in changing their lives. We got donuts being driven all over the town. You know, you ride through the city, you roll your window down, you hit with the smell of weed from cars. We have police officers raping other police officers. How can you tell me a police department is going to fight crime when the police themselves are committing crimes? We saw the videotape from Greektown this weekend where the police officer just cold cocked the guy. The guy was backing up, not in a offensive position. He gets hit. And then there's, I'm troubled by what I see. It's illegal. It's an assault and battery. If that same gentleman had hit a police officer like that, he probably would have been taken down and killed. So we got a lot of issues that we need to talk to people. And if they believe that this is the way to go, then there's nothing I'm going to convince them to change. But I think if they really begin to look critically on the issues and not use it as a, oh, they use that same argument against Coleman Young. Yeah, but it was a different time when Coleman Young was mayor because people felt intrinsically that Coleman was about the people. And I think the difference here is that people know that he's not about the people. He's about business. Yes, we want business, but business is taking money from our schools. A portion of the school funding comes from the tax base of the city. When you divert money by using tax captures for big business, you're taking money away from our kids. You're taking money away from our libraries. So now we have institutions that are not operating at full capacity because the taxes are being diverted. That's impacting the underlying understanding of people in a democratic society. If you have bad schools and people can't read and write, they can't critically examine, then you run the risk of being run by authoritarian government because people simply bow down to the wishes of the master.
Powerful, powerful statement. And sticking to the facts. You are sticking to the facts. And the fact is that $600 million is unaccounted for with regards to, you know, those taxes, high taxes that people were overcharged for the residents. Right. You stick with the facts of the flooding and the crime and what's going on. How will you get the facts out to the people? You know, Duggan has, you know, as you see, he's got a lot of financial support and a lot of, you know, money's being poured into his campaign. So starting now, today, even after this conversation, how are you going to educate the residents of Detroit to be better prepared for November when you have said that people do, you know, they become desensitized and they just don't want to hear it. So, you know,
you said that right. They don't want to hear it, but we have to keep speaking truth to power. And I mean, part of it obviously is reaching out for the other candidates who are in the race, seeing if they will come together around a coalition to support my candidacy, which I think would be symbolically important as well as spiritually important. We need to come together. We need to show that we can work together. Obviously, you know, in any campaign, a lot of things said during the course of the trail. The people are on a little edge. I mean, we were kind of all happy to see August the 3rd come, so we never have to sit through another forum with everybody to hear their point. We got to do that. We also have to, I think, re-energize our church base and really speak with our pastors about the voter turnout. You know, I prepared some information to circulate to our pastors, which shows and documents with the fact how low our turnout is and how it's impacting us. Because we got to get more people engaged and get out the vote effort, irrespective of the candidacy, just to protect the democracy in Detroit. Well, we've got to do that. We have to redouble our efforts at communicating with as many people as possible. Now it's a one-on-one race. Whatever forum there isn't 9 people in there. There's only 1 person or 2 people talking. Communicating your message, getting out, dealing with our senior citizens, and understanding that this race will be an AV race. And we got to watch the AV ballots because when you look at the numbers of the AVs, some people say there's some peculiar similarities with respect to how those numbers look between, you know, certain candidates. And so we've got to be much more vigilant in that issue. And then you also got to raise money. So I mean, I'm on the point this morning. As soon as I got it this morning, I was up at 6 o'clock. I usually get up at 5:30, but I took a little extra half hour up at 6 o'clock, started making my phone calls and going through my network, getting people energized because people understand that the first race is the first race. That's over now. The play-in is done. Now we're in the playoffs. The score is 0-0. And who can do a better job of getting their message out, talking with the people, and communicating a message of hope and aspiration that we can be great within ourselves. We don't need anybody to lord over us.
So, Attorney Adams, and this was talked about at the candidates forum or contenders forum for mayor. And it was said that we do not have a representation of ourselves in key governmental areas of leadership, talking about the House of Representatives, the US Senate, those particular areas. And then it was also said in that particular forum, mentioned that there's a feeling that Detroiters cannot govern themselves. So other persons, non-representatives of African Americans, are placed into these positions so that they can better represent the citizens of Detroit. What are your thoughts about that now that it's going to become this one-on-one situation?
Race is always an issue. Race is the most sensitive issue in this campaign, because what I've noticed is, for example, when I go very aggressive and hard at my opponent, people tend to be a little concerned about that, because we always try to be fair. You know, we probably more than fair. We too fair with ourselves. And so they want you to counter. Let's not go there with that. Let's not talk about those issues. But race clearly is an issue, and our understanding of whether or not we can represent ourselves is an issue. We have to understand that we went through a very turbulent period where Black leadership was under attack. And it's not a coincidence that Councilman Spivey would be indicted literally on the eve of an election to sort of symbolically remind people that, you know, Black folks are dirty, Black folks are criminal. It was a very subtle message, but it's a message that I, being in this world, understand the subtle hints of what goes on. And so we've got to be very careful and understand the racism that's a part of the conversation around Black leadership, because it was very telling when you talk about people not measuring up. That's a very interesting statement to make when you're comparing a Black man and a white man together. When you look at our experience is pretty equal. When you look at what he had to work with in terms of coming out of bankruptcy, it didn't take a rocket science to do what was done. The plan was already in place. And what we ended up doing was doing things that are good surface-wise. Yeah, the lights work now, but that was Dave Bean. The trash get picked up. Trash usually always they get picked up. That's what you're supposed to do in government. But what you're doing extra. Why we still have 160,000 people that opted out of the workforce? Why do we have a loss of Black home ownership over the last 8 years? Why have Blacks lost actual income in the city of Detroit over the last 8 years if the policies are working? And people need to hear that from a factual standpoint. Because one thing I always try to focus on is I like to give people information. You know, the emotional swings here and there, you got to do some of that. But at the end of the day, if I'm telling you that Blacks have lost income, Black home ownership is down, Blacks are not contracting with the city, if that's what you want, then I guess there's nothing I'm going to be able to explain to you to convince you otherwise. But if you think that makes a difference in people feeling a part of this situation, then I think you need to give me a listen and hopefully give me a vote in November.
Well, Attorney Adams, got to ask you this question because you're coming strong at the current mayor with facts.
Yes.
That can be backed up, that are documented. And so, you know, we know when sometimes you get close to, you know, winning, somebody pulls a rabbit out of a hat or whatever. So how are you going to, I would say, handle when they come out the woodworks with regards to your affiliation with current Mayor Kilpatrick?
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a picture of former Mayor Kilpatrick's wedding. I'm going to show the picture of Mike Duggan and his fiance sitting in the front row. So when you talk about associations, I'm going to say, why is he not associated with Kilpatrick and yet I'm tied to Kilpatrick? I had an interesting question by another reporter one day who he suggested, because people don't really understand, when I worked for Kilpatrick, he didn't resign because he was indicted for bribery. He resigned because he was convicted of perjury and lying in a civil trial for Gary Brown. That's how that administration ended. It wasn't until 5 years later, after $60 million worth of investigation, that they came up with what they came up with to charge him with what they did. And so when you look at my tenure and term, and also look at my experience and having never been implicated in anything that went on in the administration, I think you have to gauge for yourself what kind of person you think I am. Now, some people are never going to be convinced because when they think you work in these environments, you're supposed to know everything. But the reality is that managing the city is a 24-hour job. I don't have time to investigate anybody's personal life. I was there to work for the people in the city of Detroit, and I think I did a pretty good job in crisis management under very difficult circumstances.
All right.
All right.
All right. So let's talk about reparations.
Come on now, we ready.
This is a conversation, and it will probably be on the ballot, I do believe, in November.
Yeah.
So what's your position on that?
Well, I mean, I think the measure that they put on the ballot pretty much is watered down version of reparations, because I don't think it goes far enough. When you're looking at the historical racism that existed in the city of Detroit, we're not talking about how it existed impacted federal policy. We're talking about what went on in Detroit with the active homeowners associations, which restricted Black home ownership, with the institutional racism, which inhibited and prohibited banks from lending in the city. When you look at the structural racism of insurance companies and completely redline the city of Detroit, we have local issues that we have to impact, and we need to recognize how to address that. And so when you're talking about reparations to me, I'm not talking about some watered down version. I'm talking about how we get from point A to point B to move people forward who have been historically discriminated against in the city that's been predominantly Black and continues to this day, which is why we have the highest insurance rates in America. And so these are things that we need to be addressing. I'm for reparations. I think it can be done in a manner that works for all, but we know what the spin is going to be on reparations because we've seen the playbook. The first play will be reparations will bankrupt the city. I'll bet you a nickel to a dollar. That will be the line. Reparations will bankrupt the city. It's an irresponsible measure. It's going to hurt pensioners. We know the playbook. We know it's coming, and so stay tuned.
I got to say this. How are you going to talk about reparations will hurt the city when nobody knows where $600 million of Detroiters' home taxes are?
Because when the people in the city are hurt, there is no concern about it. That's the issue. That's what we got to get people to understand. This is not business as usual that's going on here. This is a systematic attempt to dismantle power leadership in our own community and render us essentially a class of people who will be economically exploited. When you talk about what we don't own in our city, we don't own the gas stations, we don't own the party stores, we don't own the dry cleaners, we don't own the beauty and barber supply stores. We own very little in our own, and we don't own our own houses, we're renting. So when you start looking at those factors in terms of what we need to be talking about, that's how I'm focusing my message. I'm hopefully that this message will begin to resonate with people who will understand that government is the last stop for us to empower ourselves to do the great things that we need to do to make our city great.
So Attorney Adams, is Detroit being parceled off?
There's no question about it. When you look at land transfer patterns, a lot of land being transferred to large corporations. We have community organizations that are dying and crying to get land from the land bank. You've got people who own houses that can get side lots because the land bank controls them. You're talking about giving land to the people who need the land. It's not being done. And so you continuously parcel off, you minimize ownership of the people who live here in order to maximize the leverage of people who are from the outside, the outsiders. And people are feeling the pressure, which is why now a lot of houses in single family Detroit are being bought by investors because they understand that the market for renting is strong here and that I can extract a huge toll from people by not necessarily selling that for home ownership, but selling to an investor to rent out to someone else. These are various dangerous trends in the community, which is setting itself up to be totally economically exploited, and we got to change that.
You know, I received a phone call from Georgia, and we know that Mayor Nerd at the time Support a Black Business helped to snatch that
Yes.
title of the Black Mecca from Detroit and
Yes.
Atlanta. And the phone call came, and the question was asked of me with regards to the housing market is how can a company that is not even in Michigan, not even in Detroit, buy up 500 homes at one time? Is anybody investigating that? Is anybody talking about that?
No,
Company?
no.
What is
This is why you need a strong council, because what we've had in this environment is that the council has been so weak. They've been pathetically weak. Let me just say that. They've been pathetically weak. The extension of the mayor's office, and there is no oversight, which is why you need strong people like a Nicole Small on council, who's going to be an independent voice and ask questions and has a knowledge and understanding of the process so that we can move forward with a good policy. And so when you got a pathetic council, weak leadership, no oversight, you end up with these deals where people come in and buying 500 homes. Now they're fighting with the community. The community is fighting with them and saying, give us the opportunity to participate. Why do you have to beg to do something in your own neighborhood? I don't understand that.
so? Just a little bit. We're going to dip back a little bit. Proposal P. Can it resurface? Can it be revived? Will it come back, or was that it?
No, I think what we'll talk about is sort of the issues which underlay Proposal P, the People's Charter. How do we create affordable housing policy in the city of Detroit? Which means how do we use the federal dollars that we get in order to keep people in their homes so that they can continue to live in the city of Detroit and not be pushed out. The issue is not about gentrification, it's gentrification with displacement. And the cry when they did the Chrysler plant was gentrification without displacement. People want to see their neighborhoods grow, but they don't want to be moved out in the process. And so we got to figure that out. How do we create an affordable water plant? It's been done in other cities and not, quote, bankrupted their water system. I think we can figure that out on how to get that done. I've studied a couple of plans, and I think there's a pathway in order to do that. The issue of transportation, regional transportation and mobility, I think we got to change our thought process around that. The issue is how do we move people from point A to point B with the information that we have, knowing where people, the majority of people that actually work and live in the city of Detroit work outside the city of Detroit. And so we got to figure out how we can get people to those jobs, but also how we can get people back home so they can work in their own community, be close to their children, be close to their child care. I think it makes for a much better city. Immigrant rights is something that we clearly need to be progressive about, because that's what we need to do. And so I think there are a lot of things in that charter that I would be proposing as a part of my administration to move forward, because I think we need to be much more progressive in the city of Detroit, which has a literacy rate of less than 50%, which has 160,000 people that opted out of the workforce, which has more than 45% of the people that actually own their homes. We have more people renting versus owning. These are things that we need to be doing. 911.
He said 911. It is
911.
emergency. Taking the city back and giving the city back to the residents. It's an emergency. How are you going to support Black businesses, Attorney Adams?
Well, I keep saying I am pro-Black business. I'll say I am pro-Black business. And I think we got to structure the bid packages in order to attract Black business. We got to help more businesses qualify to do business with the city. There are a number of programs that we can create that will assist them in getting their backroom operations together, making sure they have their tax certifications and legal structure together, providing with technical assistance so that they can participate. Because when you ride around this city, one thing I've noticed on a lot of these construction jobs, especially pouring concrete in the city, I don't see any Black people. And I don't know how that's a good thing for the people of the city to ride down the street and see somebody pouring concrete and there's no Black person involved in that. That's not good. That's not good. People might think that's progress, but it's not progress. It's actually regression, because we're spending our tax dollars to enrich others without employing our young men and women from our own community.
You're absolutely right with regards to that, and it just amazes me. And I'm saying to myself, are there not any African American workers or men of color or women of color or whatever that can assume these positions? But when you go down, of course, to Atlanta, that's all you see.
Well, you know, we have to reclaim the mantle. You know, all Atlanta did was took our motto and made it better. We have to reclaim that now, which is why, you know, there's so many people from Detroit living in Atlanta. It's amazing because my two kids actually live in Atlanta and they love it, but I wish they could come home and be with me. But we got to reclaim the mantle. We have to make the city exciting. You know, we don't spend enough time talking about our young people and how we create more opportunities, avenues for them. I mean, the beauty of the campaign trail is that you meet so many people. I met some young spoken word artists who are looking for a place to do their craft, to hone their skills, young rappers who need facilities. Why are we not embracing our music culture, our music heritage, and our car culture and heritage? Instead of penalizing people for having fast cars, we need to put them in a dedicated facility. There's so many things we should be talking about on how we embrace what we do, but we'd rather criminalize, marginalize, and not allow that to be a meaningful part of the conversation, which it needs to be. We need to embrace that. We in Motown is built on cars and music. Why are we not capitalizing on that?
All right.
All right.
Anthony Adams, is there anything else that you want to leave with our audience today?
I think we have covered the gamut. I think this is a great interview. I really appreciate you allowing me to come on and really begin to lay the foundation for how we're going to attack this big issue. Because this is a campaign which is built on being able to communicate effectively. And I certainly appreciate that you give me the opportunity to present my ideas because no other forum allows me to do this so freely.
Yes, this is why we're here. When others will not allow it or don't want to touch it because of whatever the reasons are.
You know the reason. We know why they are.
UIN is here. UIN is here. So
all right. Thank you.
Congratulations. We will be tracking with you, keeping up with this. We hope to present another forum with yourself and the current mayor. Let's see what happens.
Let's schedule that early September. I guarantee you he won't show up, but that's okay. I will be there because his plan is to not debate me. He doesn't want to debate me because he doesn't want to stand on the stage with me because he doesn't want me dissecting him and his policies. He doesn't. But I trust that you all will put together a forum in early September. I will be there.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. You have been with Urban Interest for this segment. We are trying to give you information about the exit polls as well as attorney Anthony Adams. He is advancing to November. So you need to keep abreast and track with him so that you can know what he's talking about, as well as what the real issues are, not the fluff and stuff. But we're talking about facts. We're talking about things that is written down, is documented, that you yourself can research and go and find this information. You know, people perish because we don't have information. And as you see from the exit poll interview, Proposal P was defeated because people really didn't know what it encompassed and what it was about. So listen, we're going to take a quick break and we are going to come back and wrap up this segment of Urban Interest. So stay put.
As an Olympic athlete, I prepare for everything. So when I became pregnant, I thought I was ready. But at 32 weeks, I was diagnosed with severe preeclampsia and had an emergency C-section. Looking back, had I known the warning signs, I would have talked to my doctor sooner. Too many women die of pregnancy-related complications, and most are preventable. If you or someone you know is pregnant or recently had a baby, learn the warning signs. It could help save her life. Hear her.
Today, we bring you the first part of our global broadcast exclusive conversation.
The streets of Tahrir have once again been filled.
Key issues here at the United Nations Climate Change Conference remain unresolved.
Police are saying the protesters to move further and further away.
I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!
All All right, everyone, you have been with Urban Interest today. What we will do is that we have had these interviews and the conversation today, the interviews from the exit polls, as well as the conversations with contender Anthony Adams, attorney Anthony Adams. We will bring you more information with regards to the exit polls. We're going to talk about Wayne State, what are they doing. The CDC eviction has been extended to October 3rd. So there's more time for people, renters who are behind in rent and utilities, to get caught up because the monies are still out there. So research that and find out what that is, but we'll bring you more information on that as well. And Detroit automakers are mandating mass vaccinations. So listen, we'll come back with those stories on this coming Friday, as well as guests. You want to connect with us, urban.interest, or go to DetroitIPTV.com. Catch us on our UIN broadcasts. You've been great. You're always great, but listen, you need to know these issues that are coming up because Detroit is very important in the overall election of the United States of America. If Detroit goes, Michigan goes, and we don't want that. Outside people coming in and owning Detroit. Stay tuned, stay connected. Talk to you later.